Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Mm. I worked for several summers at a nonviolence training camp up on Vashon Island in Washington State. I was facilitating there the program for teens. And one of the people who would come and work with us for a day was an Aikido teacher, David. He would set the stage for his work with the teens like this. We'd all gather around in a circle with him standing at the center. And after some fun with a stick that he was whacking around and trying to anticipate just the right moment to step off the line and avoid getting struck, he'd let go of the stick and just walk towards each of us with the invitation to say stop at the moment we knew he was entering our space. So he would stand in the center of the circle, choose somebody at random, walk towards, and each time, each of us in turn would tell him to stop when he was a few feet away. The distances varied a little, not a lot. And then he asked a question that I found to be a profound gateway into greater awareness, a simple question that points to that threshold that I was talking about today. He simply asked, how did you know? How did you know it was time to tell me to stop approaching? As we repeated the exercise and brought focus and attention to the subtleties of what was occurring in the interaction, each of us would discover there was a moment as he approached when we felt a physical sensation, a contraction, usually somewhere between the heart and the gut, the solar plexus, somewhere in here. Sometimes the throat. You can try this out sometime. If it's someone familiar to you, you might have to imagine they're a stranger as they approach. And also, I think with the intensive training in in keeping 6 feet apart that we've all just undergone, we may have cultivated something beyond those instincts that the teens were becoming aware of in that exercise now. But I'd be curious if you what you noticed doing this. So each of us, we would notice that contraction, that physical sensation of the impulse to protect ourselves from the man who was just, whacking a stick at you. And then David asked, when was the first time you felt that? Just an intuitive answer, he suggested. You don't need to go rooting through your memories. And sure enough, intuitively, each of us could name an age, 5 or 7 or maybe 2, somewhere in there when our bodies first began to learn that particular contraction. Sometimes the world greets us with warm and open arms, with a field of wild flowers or sea foam on soft sand. Alleluia. And the tender, vulnerable self, that core self that we might name soul, rests into the embrace of the world. Enfolded in the caring arms of a parent or a lover, or a spouse or a friend. The soul knows itself to be in a safe and welcoming world. The body rests, feeling it is at home. And of course, we know that's not the whole of the soul's experience in this world. We learn through the physical and emotional violations that occur in our families and our schools, and it can occur anywhere, of course, that the world is not always a safe place for our vulnerable inner selves. As small children, our bodies learn to contract around our vulnerability, but that the lesson that there's danger in this world continues throughout our lives. Like this past week and a half, hearing of mass shootings in Atlanta and Boulder, hearing just this morning of a suicide bombing on a Palm Sunday celebration in Indonesia. And even comfortably removed as I am from all those places, from all that violence, my soul, I could feel, just wanted to go hide under a rock. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you want to go, fight. We have all sorts of different reactions, but man, I didn't want to face into the pain, the grief, the anger. I didn't want to face into the realities of the insanity at the core of our cultures of patriarchy and white supremacy on vivid display in the targeting of Asian and Asian American women. I didn't want to think about the trauma that my friends in Boulder are enduring as they shop for groceries. Certainly not what Talia, a family friend, the daughter of another UU minister who works in that King Soopers grocery store that was shut up, what she'll have to sort through deciding whether to continue working there. My soul wants to hide from such a world. Because it's not just that horrific things are happening, it's also that we know that they've happened before, that they will continue to happen. How do we live with our exquisitely vulnerable souls in a world fraught with violence? Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry, voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Keep with the web of creation your vow. I think that we make these vows not aloud, but deeper than words, in the fiber of our beings. Vows in response to those early experiences with the pain of the world, or any time that we face into the devastation of suffering. Vows to our own souls, vows to the world. Commitments that shape our lives, that can give us strength and that can also confine and contort us. You know, kind of vows I'm talking about, vows like I must always work hard to demonstrate my worth, or I must always fight to make things right. I will never trust others to take care of me. I will stay small and take up as little space as I can manage. Or the best way to be safe is to take care of the feelings of those around me. You know, they come in a multitude of flavors, these commitments we make to try to protect our souls in an unpredictable world. These stories we weave into the muscles that contract in our bellies and our chests, the stories we learn to heal, hopefully, as we grow, as we develop spiritual maturity. So there's a story that people around the world are telling this morning at that cathedral in Indonesia and elsewhere, a story about a parade of sorts, about a revolutionary with profound commitments to both soul and world, riding into Jerusalem on maybe a colt or maybe a donkey, his path strewn by maybe palms or maybe cloaks and scarves. Milton joked this morning as we were gathering, it's I think pride parade, but with palms instead of rainbow flags. This big parade, exciting moment, riding into the city where he knew, according to the story, where he knew he would be confronting a powerful empire, where he knew he would be persecuted. I read a beautiful novel recently about Jesus called The Book of Longings. It's by Sumunk Kid, famous for her novel The Secret Life of Bees. And it's not really about Jesus, actually. The story is about a woman named Anna who marries him. And there's a scene that I wanted to share. Jesus is preparing to go embark on his ministry. He's only recently come back from following John the Baptist around, and now they've gotten news that John's been imprisoned, and of course will soon be beheaded. And Anna is worried about it, worried about what these commitments that Jesus is living will mean for his life, will mean for her life, worried about the danger he's putting himself in. And as she presses him, she tells us, he was forever telling me to consider the lilies in the field, which were never anxious, and yet God took care of them. I didn't wish to hear it. Don't tell me not to worry, she says to him. I'm alarmed for you. There's something about that lilies in the field, taking it from that trope, from that cultural kernel that we've inherited, and turning it into one of those moments of family life. Don't tell me not to worry. Here's how Jesus says it in Matthew. It says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet they are fed. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will not God much more clothe you, you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Oh, to live with that abandon, that wild, holy trust, to be free of all the constraints we make to protect ourselves, to trust in the essence of our goodness, of our okayness, to trust the beauty of the earth, the splendor of the skies, the love which from our birth over and around us lies, to choose to open and soften and be held in that love, even in the face of mass shootings, of a pandemic, of all the countless traumas of our lives. You know, we should, every one of us, be greeted with such a parade every time we leave our doors. Every grocery worker should have palm fronds strewn before them as they ride off to work. Every nurse and doctor, teacher, every parent, every grandparent, every social worker or counselor cheered by crowds and thrown garments at our feet as we make the choice to move toward the world again, knowing the danger and still choosing to go. Every time any one of us walks through the door, to show our willingness to love this world in all its brokenness, with all its risks. Every time should be a moment to be celebrated, a palm parade. Consider the lilies of the field, writes Reverend Lynn Unger. The blue banks of camas opening into acres of sky along the road. Would the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty abate if you knew their usefulness? How the natives ground their bulbs for flour, how the settlers' hogs uprooted them, grunting in gleeful oblivion as the flowers fell. And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down, papers, plans, appointments, everything, leaving only a note, gone to the fields to be lovely. Be back when I'm through with blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass. From their tender blue eyes, even in your sleep, your life will shine. Make no mistake. Of course, your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. With the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty. Even when the world threatens to swallow you up, may you glow with the unself-conscious beauty of the lily. May your soul bloom in the face of risk. May your rushed and useful life give way in the face of blue banks of camas opening. In the face of acres of sky along the road, may you see the steps you long to take in your secret heart, greeted by cheers and palms. Your whole self welcomed, whatever may come. May it be so. And amen.